We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Hello and welcome back to Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network from our flagship station in the nation's capital, WWRC in Washington, D.C. I am, as always, your host, Mark Angelides. On today's special edition, we're going to be talking communication, how that's been working out for both presidential candidates. We'll also be talking the surrogate media, the rise of X, and the hybrid warfare that just brought a rude awakening to the Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon. Remember, this show is proudly sponsored by LibertyNation.com, where you can access podcasts, breaking news, analysis, and a range of biting and brilliant shows to whet your appetite for freedom and your fondness for the great American Constitution. Communication is king in the land of elections, and this year is no different. We're very fortunate to have with us somebody who understands the key elements of communication, whether that's body language, what messaging means, and digging beneath the surface. Very fortunate to have with us Liberty Nation's executive editor, Leesa K. Thanks for being here, Leesa.
Good to be here, Mark. A lot to talk about this week.
There really is. And I think that there's an overarching theme that I want to address, and that's communication. And I guess the first question I got to ask here is, in the wake of the second assassination attempt against Donald Trump, how much will Donald Trump's communication strategies be impacted by that in terms of, will he continue doing the rallies, things like this? What do you think?
Well, I don't think anything's going to stop him. He seems to be a courageous sort, and he's rather unflappable when it comes to this stuff. And which is kind of shocking, you know, I think the first one set him back a little bit, but the second one sort of took in stride. And he was only one golf hole away from being very close to this guy and his AK-47, and the guy lie in wait for him for 12 hours. But he seems to be taking it in stride. I think, you know, everybody's been counseling him, do it inside, don't do it outside where people can go through magnetometers or whatever they're called now. I'm not really sure the name of the metal detectors, but, you know, I think he's behind plexiglass now. But, you know, you can't live inside a bubble. And he was playing golf on Sunday, and he's got to continue to have some respite. So I see him as trying to take some precautions, but not necessarily change his communication level very much, because he's an extrovert. He's one of those people that feeds off of the energy of other people. He needs that energy.
Yeah, I agree. It is quite poignant what you say there, because after the first assassination attempt, they put up these big bulletproof barriers next to his rally. And then all of a sudden, a lady in the crowd, she passes out or something, and so he comes out from behind, walks down the steps. Which, by the way, I should point out, Donald Trump can walk down steps. I don't.
Yes, he can.
And
the Secret Service went nuts. They went crazy. Yeah. I mean, they were just all, you know, running past him, and he's like, "Are you all right?" And you know, it's kind of crazy. I don't see it changing his message that much or his communication that much, and we're, you know, coming down to the wire here.
Yeah, we're less than, as time of recording, we're less than 60 days. Sorry, we're even closer than that out from the election. And it really is the time for the candidates to start hitting as many high points as they can in terms of getting the message across. And I wonder whether, because and I'll go off on a bit of a tangent here, not for too long, I promise. It seems to me that, and you said he thrives on the crowd, and to me that always seems to be almost, if one could be said to have a superpower, his superpower is being energized and energizing crowds. And I wonder if the new precautions that the Secret Service might insist upon to have operational security might be a big chunk of kryptonite.
No, you know, he's the one that makes the decisions, and I don't think he's going to separate himself from the people. But the interesting thing is, the only person who has died at any of these rallies is a rally goer. And I'm interested in the fact that he's still packing them in. I mean, people don't seem to be worried about personal harm and, you know, in going to one of his rallies.
In ancient Rome, just a short story, in ancient Rome, when people would go to the gladiatorial events and the chariot race in the Circus Maximus, which both fantastic places even today, but when they would go there, they would pay extra money to sit very, very close because there was a chance that they could get sprayed with the dirt from the chariot wheels, the sweat from the horses, or the blood from the gladiators. And it added an element for them. And I don't think that's something that's true for uh, political fans of things. But there is an element they want to be close to the action. And I think that term, close to the action, whatever that action is, applies quite significantly for politics because people think that they're taking part in history.
Well, the most expensive tickets are always in the front.
Very true. And
Let's face it.
those in the really expensive seats just jingle their jewelry,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
um, so yeah,
Let me just say one thing. You're talking about communications, and it was interesting. The headlines earlier this week were Kamala Harris has now done, sit down interview by herself. And I thought, oh, okay, let's see what's going on. Well, she sat down with the National Association of Black Journalists,
mm,
and, you know, the Black journalist group was three, and this is an old organization. As long as I've been in television and radio and communications, they've been around. So this isn't a new organization. I thought this is really an opportunity to put themselves on the map for people who haven't heard about them. And yet their question to her was, why do you think talking about joy is so important? And their question to Donald Trump a couple of weeks ago was,
why are you racist?
yeah, why are you racist? And I thought, that's a missed opportunity by the NABJ. They could have really done something with their reputation and fired a few tough questions at her. She should have been able to handle them, but she was kind of back to her old self and not that quick debate, repartee.
I'm going to defend Vice President Kamala Harris here and say that she answered just about the questions that she was asked, and she wasn't asked anything difficult
You're right.
because they're on her side and they want her to win. I mean, when one of their questions, and I'm not going to quote this accurately, I don't have it written down in front of me, but it was, with Donald Trump being irredeemably racist, do you think there's some federal action that should be taken against him? I mean, that is not the question that somebody who's seeking to get to know a candidate,
Right,
those candidates' policies so
right,
people can talk about them, that's a surrogate.
right.
And they've lost, really, as far as I can see, they've lost any semblance of being a serious organization with that. And I think that's a detriment not just to themselves, but to the country who could be benefiting from some serious journalism at the moment.
Yeah, and she did acquit herself well in the debate. There's no
She did.
doubt about it. But at the same time, there a lot has come out about the ties between ABC and
Mm.
the Kamala Harris campaign or Kamala Harris personally. And I think, that grates on Americans who tend to like fair scales.
Yeah, it can't help if she's seen as aided and abetted by the media because, and again, I'm defending Kamala Harris here, and that's not my role, but it shows her as being weak because
Exactly, exactly.
if she needs their help to perform at any reasonable level, well, then she's not competent. And that's the
Right.
impression that I guess clear thinkers might take away from that.
Yeah, or she can't handle the heat. And nobody wants a president that can't handle the heat, let's face it.
Mm.
So I think they really should fire some tougher questions at her. The interesting thing is there a lot is being fooled around with the economy right now. And the economy are really the questions that need to be answered. And those are the questions that need to be fired at her. And we've got to get off of this business of I'm middle class. As you said the other day, how many middle class homes have two PhDs as parents?
Absolutely. Well,
It didn't happen in
yeah.
my middle class neighborhood. I don't know too many PhDs. How about you in
Well, I don't
England?
know. I think that's going to be much more the case in the future because, a PhD in gender studies is going to earn you, I don't know, a cup of Starbucks and $8 an hour. But back in those days, that was that's a pretty well-off family. And
Yeah,
coming into the issue is you can't answer every single question with I was raised in a middle class family. No matter what the topic is, what are you going to do about gun violence? I was raised in a middle class family. What are you going to do about the economy? When my middle class family, it's just it's old hat and it's not interesting. And
Mark, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. I was just going to say what this communicates to people is that I'm like you. I'm like you, and you can identify with me. But is that really what people want in a president? Do they really want somebody that they can? I mean, they weren't identifying with Ronald Reagan. They weren't identified with George H.W. Bush. Not even W, his son, was somebody you could. I think when people are picking leaders, maybe they don't necessarily want somebody that is exactly like them, but they want somebody that exudes leadership qualities. But maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think you are, Lisa. We'll be back with Leesa K, Donna, after this short break. Don't go anywhere.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.